here I've got my VMware set up, and we've got our server from last week that's just sitting in paused, Windows Server 2022. So I'm going to create a new custom virtual machine, workstation 16 compatible, and I'm going to use the Windows 10 client ISO. Now it's saying that it can't detect which operating system, which is a little bit alarming, but let's just set it to Windows 10 64, and I'm going to call this Windows 10 client. Okay, and let's just go for the BIOS, and let's give it let's just give it 1 CPU, and we'll leave it on 2 gig of RAM as well. Right, so I'm going to turn the RAM up just to make the installation go a bit quicker. Leave it on that, and we'll create a disk, but we'll make the disk a single file so it's easier to delete later on. And the only other thing, I just want to make sure, I'm just going to go back and make sure I've set the path to this machine correctly. Local VMs, Windows 10 client is exactly what I want. We don't want to be installing it in the downloads folder or something like that. So, don't need to customize hardware. Let's run this and see what happens. As we know, the installation of Windows 10, hopefully everyone's had a chance to do that before, can be somewhat tedious. English, United Kingdom, and then click install now. Okay, and then it's going to ask me literally a million questions about whether I want to be spied on in my house, or, you know, how often I want to be observed by Microsoft. Right, so another thing to choose is I don't have a product key. We'll just, now, hopefully you should see this dialog, and if you don't see this dialog, then I'll have to share this ISO with you. So I'm going to choose for this one Windows 10 Pro. Okay, accept the licensing, do custom, and just choose that drive there, and then that should begin a long process. This classic window that we see for a very long time now, that'll drag on in the background. First thing we should do is we're going to set ourselves up a domain. Okay, and the first thing that we need in our network, okay, is some sort of an IP addressing scheme. So we cannot have a domain controller. Well, we could, but it would be it would make things even more complicated. We shouldn't have a domain controller that isn't on a static IP, really. You know, talking about best practice here, I'm sure there's a way to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the network and sharing center, and let's just check how our client's getting on. Okay, so how would you like to set it up? I'm going to go set up for personal use, because I think that will be less. I feel like if we set up for an organization, it'll want me to put in email addresses and stuff. So I'm going to choose an offline account for this, so that we don't have to sign in to Office 365. And it's going to tell me that if I don't sign in, I won't be able to enjoy the full range of Microsoft apps and services. So let's choose, do we want to go next, or do we want to do a limited experience? I think we want a limited experience, believe it or not. Right, who's going to use this PC? So see, look, it keeps telling you you want to use an online account, but you don't. So we're going to make our client, we'll give him a name, John Smith, and let's create the password. So I'll use my classic password that I use for everything in this course. Okay, so it's the $, capital E at the end, Edinburgh College. Okay, that means that you can remember it always. So let's just confirm that password again. Okay, now security questions. It's going to make me answer 3. Here's another thing that I do that just to make this easier. Right, I just put Edinburgh for them all. That way I know that if it's asking me, well, you can choose a different place if you're very against Edinburgh. What was your childhood nickname? Edinburgh. That way I don't. That way, if I ever had to recover the account, I probably could. All right. So, do we want activity history? No, we do not. Do we want digital assistant? Decline. Okay. So again, I'm just don't use speech recognition. No location. No find my device. Basic diagnostic data. No inking and typing improvements. No tailored experiences. No advertising ID. And hopefully that's enough no's to get us in. Here we go. So this is the out-of-box experience, the first time boot of Windows 10. So I'll just let that run in the background, telling you how wonderful it's going to be when you first turn on your laptop. And let's go over to our Windows server and let's assign this a static IP address. So let's open Network and Internet Settings. And I'm just going to take a note on a pen of the address that I assign this when it eventually opens. Okay, so we want to get to the Network and Sharing Center. Okay, so often it's tempting to choose change adapter options, but you don't want change adapter options. You want Network and Sharing Center. You want to get to this window. You can get there via the control panel as well. And let's change adapter settings and let's go. Now at the moment, okay, we have this VMware virtual machine adapter set to NAT, and that's not what we want to do. So I'm going to open up the virtual network editor now, and we're going to create a subnet to run this on, and we're going to put this into a specific subnet. Now normally we would do this on a VMXnet, a virtual network, but for this course I usually try and run things on a LAN segment, so it's just like a kind of almost like they're both plugged into a switch. So we can try both. Leave everything to us. Okay, right, so let's go in here, properties, and we'll do the, now we're not going to use IP version 6 in this, so we could go ahead and just untick IP version 6, which is probably what I'm going to do. I don't know if that'll upset it because it's server 2022. Let's have a look over here. Windows stays up to date to help protect you in an online world. Thank you. And I'm definitely going to need to put this back up. Right, okay, so let's get rid of IP version 6 and open up IP version 4. And we're going to use the following IP address. Now, this is the one that I like to use for my domain controllers, my servers, because it's easy to remember. 10, oh, put numlock on, 10, and if you do space, it'll jump you, .10, space 10, space 1. Okay, now by default, it's going to put that on a /10, /8, sorry. So make sure we put it on a /24. And let's just leave that. Okay, don't need to tick validate settings on exit. Click OK. And it only applies when you click close. So I've seen people stuck with this, but they still have that window open. Now at this point, we need to change this virtual machine's network adapter allocation. So at the moment, we have it sitting on NAT. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it onto a LAN segment. Okay, now in order to put it, now we can think of a LAN segment as like a virtual switch. Okay, so let's go LAN segments, add, and you have to just click away and click close, and let's put it in LAN segment 1. So you can imagine LAN segment 1 is literally like having a switch in the middle of a table, and okay, so let's save. So now this is in its own private, connected to its own private switch, shall we say. And it's given me a little error there, and what I'm going to do at this stage is reboot the server so it can accept these. Now hopefully it won't take too long to reboot this time. Let's just check how our client machine, the client machine's installed. Good. So what we're going to do with the client machine is power that down. So let's go shut down. And shall we shut down the server at the same time? I don't know. Then we'll end up with no machines at all. Well, let's just see if this is applied, okay? Let's do... Should we be following along here? You can do, yeah, if you can, I would, yeah. ipconfig. Good. So that's what we want to see on our server. Now, I was going to reboot it, but I might just... Okay. What I'm going to do now with my client machine, alright, is turn the RAM down to 2 gig. Okay? And then I'm going to shut my server down, and I'm going to turn it back up to 4 gig, because it's running... it's very sad at the moment with the... I mean, it will work, but just because I'm demonstrating it to you, I don't want it to be running so incredibly slowly that we have to wait 5 minutes. There will be some guidance for this. I'm recording this. There's a video of this. There will be a video of this. But I would at the moment, hopefully what I've done isn't difficult. I've just installed 2 things, and so let me just turn the memory back up on the server now. 4096, alright. Obviously if you don't have that RAM available, then you can't do this. So we'll start the server first, because that's more important than the client. And hopefully it doesn't come up and say the amount of memory has changed and Windows needs to repair itself or something. Hopefully it can cope with having more RAM. Right, so, yes?
After you put in the IP address 10.10 and then you put the subnet, what do you do after that?
You just click close.
Alright, okay. So you don't click install, you just click close.
I don't think there is an install button anywhere. Never seen an install. Okay, right. So here we are logged into our server. It's all happy. We've got the VMware running. VMware's very happy. Now, subnet, no, it should be /24, because we don't have 2 to the power of 24 machines. 2 to the power of 8 subnets. Yes, /24, exactly. We'll talk about some subnetting next week. We'll give you some questions on some subnetting. Right. While that's loading, I'm going to start up my new client machine, which now only has 2 gig of RAM. So hopefully that won't cause too much of a drama to my computer as a whole. Okay. So we have the client starting up in the background, and it's just an absolute basic Windows 10 client. John Smith is the user. With a normal password, okay? It's just a simple client machine. You can imagine it just being a simple computer sitting over in the corner. There it is there. So let's do VM, login, and we'll log in as John Smith. He's just a test user that I created. Hopefully I got that right. Yes, I did. Okay. So what we would like to do as well, okay, is go to the Windows 10 client settings, and we can see that the network adapter's on NAT. Now, we won't be able to speak to the server if it's on NAT, so let's change the network adapter and put it into a LAN segment. Then it's plugged into the same virtual switch as the server. So that's fine, but at the moment, if we do Windows key and R, cmd ipconfig, at the moment we're on a random NAT IP address. So let's just give this machine an IP as well. So let's go network and internet settings, scroll down. Now notice that this is a slightly different, looks slightly different from the server. We want the network and sharing center there, and let's go change adapter settings, and let's put this one into the same subnet as we had the as we've put the server. So see how the server's getting on loading up. Looks fine. Okay, so I'm going to untick IPv6 which is unnecessary, it's just an additional thing, and use the following IP address. So let's do 10, numlocks off, 10, 10, 10, okay, and let's put this on 10. Okay, so the server's on 10, 10, 10, 1, the client's on 10, 10, 10, 10. Okay. Subnet mask, by default, it's trying to help and it's saying, okay, 10, that's a class A network, so have a class A subnet mask. Okay, right, now, I'm gonna click OK on that just now. I'm gonna click cancel, but I'm gonna leave the network and sharing center open because we'll need to go back there in a second. So let's go to our server now and let's just verify that no bad services are broken, Microsoft Edge updates and that, nothing important. So now we want to promote this server to be a domain controller. So we're going to go up to manage and add roles and features. Okay. And then what we're going to do is this is going to bring up this add roles and features wizard. Now, ignore this page first. This is just telling you about stuff that you should do. And we want to choose a role-based installation, and we want to choose this current server that we're using. Okay, so if you had multiple servers, you could choose one of those in there. Now, here's all the different roles that we can choose. And the one we want is Active Directory Domain Services. Now, I promised myself that I would get a screenshot of this because the screenshot that I've got in the slides is awful. So I'm going to do that trick from last week. Capture screen. Let's just cancel that. And let's cancel. No, that'll do. VM capture screen. Okay, so Active Directory Domain Services. Now, it's going to tell us that it's going to install a load of other stuff with it. Okay, so let's just choose add and then click next. And then this is all just default stuff. So we don't need to worry about any of that stuff there. Okay, now choose restart if required. Don't think it'll have to restart, and then hit install. And that'll start installing the Active Directory Domain Services role into this server. So while that's happening, we'll go back over to the client machine and we'll check that we've got our correct setting. So 10.10.10.10 is the IP address of this machine. No gateway needed because we're not going to leave the network yet. Now there's one more change that we need to make, and I'm deliberately not doing it so that I can show you how it's going to become a problem. So I can actually close the wizard and let this run in the background, and it'll tell me when it's finished. So I'm gonna close this down and just leave it. And I think while that's working in the background, we might install the VMware tools on this just so we have a bit of a better experience. So I'll show you how to do the VMware tools installation. So I'm going to open up Windows Explorer, which is the file manager, and then go to this PC. Now, at the moment, we have a DVD in the virtual DVD drive that's the installation DVD for Windows 10. If we go VM and choose Install VMware Tools, you'll notice that this will change to a different DVD. Ah, look at this. It doesn't matter if it's not present. Basically, you do choose VMware Tools, and then look, it puts a CD in the thing for VMware Tools. So all we do, double click on the CD, accept the user account control settings. It's going to ask if we want to do something in a minute, I think. VMware Tools, yes, I do want to install VMware Tools. So let that, it's going to bring up a wizard in the background, so let's just let that run. We'll minimize some of these and let's go and see how the server's getting on. Okay, so the server has finished the installation of the Active Directory, but we don't see it appearing in the server roles. Why is that? Look up at this flag up here, notifications. So it says that the installation succeeded. Okay, so let's try and refresh the server manager view and see what happens here. Okay, good, that's really good. Now we have a new role, Active Directory Domain Services, in our server. Okay, so I've also got this little orange flag up here, and this is important. We click on this and it says post deployment we need to promote this server to being a domain controller. So let's promote the server to a domain controller, and let's just see how our client is getting on. Right, this is dead easy. VMware Tools has like, it helps you do dynamic copy and paste in and out of the virtual machine, and it sorts out. So let's go for just a typical installation of this and hit install. Now when this installs, you'll notice it'll fix the screen resolution, it fixes the graphics drivers, the VMCI driver and various other, it's just a kind of a driver pack to make it work a bit better. PS2 mouse, memory control, watch the graphics are going to fix themselves any second. There we go, look at that. Isn't that a sharper resolution there? So that's how you get the VM tools installed. Finish. Probably going to ask for a reboot, so let's just reboot the client machine, go back over to our server. Okay, so the server, we want to add a new forest, okay, and that forest that we're going to use for this, okay, it's called ec.com. Okay, I make it EC because it's easy and it's Edinburgh College as well. Don't worry, we're not going to run this on the internet, so you don't have to worry about whether or not we own ec.com. So now we're going to think about this new forest called ec.com that we've just told it about. Let's see how our client machine's getting on. Okay, it's fine, it's rebooting. Right, so the forest functional level, okay, we can just leave that as it is, and we're going to put our password in, and we're going to use our same password as normal. Okay, $. Oh, I've messed that up, haven't I? Try again. $. Do it in parallel. $. Capital E. Capital E. I think that's worked. There we go. Next. Right. Create a DNS delegation. Okay. So let's just leave that just now. Okay. The net BIOS name should be automatically created. So let's just see what it puts in there. And while it's doing that, let's get logged back into the client. So VM send control delete, and same password as usual. Okay. Right. Net BIOS name EC, absolutely fine. Now it's going to ask me some stuff about paths and review options, so just leave all those as they are. We don't want to change any of this stuff. Now we can export this to a PowerShell script. We just click view script to do that. I'll let you do that yourself. Now it's going to come up with a few errors. Okay, it's telling me that the default one or more prerequisites failed. Please fix the issues and click rerun prerequisites check. Okay, so what are the issues? The default security setting, allow cryptography. Right, verification, DNS services are required before you proceed. Okay. So normally in previous versions it allowed you to set up this, and then as part of the installation it took the DNS, it brought DNS in with it. It doesn't seem to be doing that here. So what I'm going to do is cancel this wizard, and we're going to go back to manage and add roles and features. So this is a little bit different from Server 2019, and we're going to add a DNS server, okay, which used to be added as part of the installation of the Active Directory. So let's install. This is a smaller role, this won't take long to install, and hopefully this will fix the prerequisite problem with the Active Directory. So let's run our command prompt here. Just check that we have ipconfig. Okay, we're all good there. Let's go back to the server and wait for our DNS installation. Now, once the DNS installation is complete, I'm going to try and run the Active Directory domain services installation again, and hopefully that will that'll work. Hopefully. So right, install succeeded. Close. Now it's going to tell me, right, I've got the DNS role, but I think it's going to tell me that I have to. Okay, so that's saying that that's succeeded. Let's go for the domain controller again and see if it'll allow it now. Add a new forest, ec.com. Thinking about it. While it's doing that, I'm going to get to the place where I can change the name of the client machine. So let's go to the settings gear, and we want system and about, and we want to scroll down and choose rename this PC. Oh, no we don't. Change product key. Ah, no, they have made that difficult, haven't they? System info then. And we want advanced system settings. Computer name. So system info. Used to be a button you could change the... So this is where we're going to join the computer to the domain when we eventually get the domain to work. So let's put the password in again. $, capital E. Okay. Next on that. See, I want to create the authoritative parent zone cannot be found. I want to create a DNS delegation. It used to allow you to do it as part of the installation. Let's just see if it'll work this time. Fingers crossed that it says it'll set up the delegation, otherwise we'll be going back to DNS again. Right, so it's on the prerequisites check. So let's just see if this will work now. Otherwise we're going to have to go and try and create a parent zone. No doubt that'll be highly tedious. Right, come on, prerequisites check. Come on. I'm sort of 50-50 on this, whether or not it's going to work. Good, that's good. Lots of yellows are good. This is going to work. Prerequisites passed. Brilliant. Okay, so you can sometimes get away with doing the installation and it will say, do you want us to set up the DNS as well? But obviously they're not doing that anymore. So let's hit install. This is good news now. We're turned a corner here. Okay, so that's going to promote this server to being the master domain controller of ec.com. It's going to become the domain controller of the ec.com domain. So this is good news. Yellows are okay. Yellows are just errors about knowledge base articles and stuff. It's the red ones that you can't get around. So let's just... Now, the machine will likely have to reboot, and when the machine reboots, we'll then log in to the new ec.com domain, and then we'll be on to the final chapter of this journey, which will be joining the client into the domain as well. So a delegation cannot be created because of the parent zone. It seems to be doing it though. It seems to be doing it. So we'll completing the Active Directory, setting the LSA policy, setting the computer's DNS name. See, it's doing it for me now. Securing the machine, and hopefully this is going to finish in a second. configuring the DNS server service. That's what we wanted. You got that while installing. Let's have a look. You're about to be signed out. Yeah, it's going to exactly that way. So let's hit close, and it's going to reboot because now we're about to join the domain. At the moment, we've just been on this computer, and this is just a single box on its own in the world. But now we're going to join the domain. So here we go. Strap yourself in for this scintillating journey. Right. Let's make sure our client's okay over here. Client's all good. The server. Now, you'll notice that the login screen's going to be different here. Okay, it's going to actually say, it's like now we're in an organization now, and we're now going to sign in to the domain. So, this is why it's taking a little bit longer to boot than the standalone server that we had before. Let's just hope this is going to work. Fingers crossed here. Really thinking about it. What I'm going to do is, no, not yet. We'll not do that yet. Let's get signed in first. So applying computer settings. I suppose I can do a video edit and edit a lot of this waiting around out. It's good to see it live though, and it's also good to see that it doesn't all go like, it doesn't always go all perfectly smoothly for me. I've put it this way, I've had worse installations than this. It's gone worse than this. This is going quite well actually. So soon we're going to establish the relationship between the client and the server, but let's just see if this has worked. Applying computer settings. So this is almost like if you go into an office and you sign in for the first time. It's like pulling your profile. So has everyone kind of been able to roughly follow along with what's happening here? The actual tasks I've been doing aren't that complicated. It's just a lot of little silly things because we're waiting for Windows Server to finish loading and to catch up and stuff. Just going to take the tag off my glasses. For the most part, good. What I like to see. Aye, excellent. Happy people. If you've not done this before, if this is the first time you've done this, then I've got a fingerprint on the glasses. I was thinking if I go back into college, I might start wearing them in the class as well. Never know. Some angry student might chuck a pencil at me or something. You fell behind at the network settings. Any news about going back into college? No. Apparently there's an announcement in, will you see PowerShell? Yes, you will see PowerShell. Yes. You fell behind at network settings. So the network settings I've got, let me just write them in, is the server is on 10.10.10.10, no, 1/24. Client is on 10.10.10.10/24. Okay, so 10.10.1 and 10.10 are two settings. Wow, it's really, honestly, I've never worn glasses. Like, I never had glasses, so I didn't know that it's annoying when you get one like tiny smudge on them. That's bad. You never know. Something might come flying in. Flying in here. What do we SOM at this stage? Add a new forest. Add a new forest there. Okay, VM, send control delete. Okay, so now, notice that this looks different now. Now we're in the EC domain, and we're going to sign in as, we can sign in as other users. There's only one user in the domain at the moment, so we don't have any choice but to sign in as the administrator. Let's put the administrator's password in. Okay, and here we are. Welcome to the EC domain. And you'll see things are starting to run ship shape now, apart from all these errors that come up, but we can deal with them later. So you'll probably notice as well that in Server Manager we have more roles which are going to load up in just a second. But for the purpose of this test, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the command line, okay, to see if we've got communication with the client. Okay, so there's Active Directories here is working, DNS is working, file and storage service, and we've probably got some errors about Edge and updates there. So this is all looking quite good. Okay, now our new role has added something to the tools menu, and that thing is Active Directory users and computers. So we go to manage to add roles, and we go to tools to get to the management console of those roles. So let's go into Active Directory users and computers, and we'll see that we now have a domain called ec.com. Okay, so there's our domain, and when we open it out, here's the objects inside the Active Directory. Here's our little security groups objects. We've got domain controllers, we've got one of those, users. At the moment we only have the built-in users, but we can add a new user, and I'll show you how that works in just a moment. So let's go and see, well, first of all, let's see if we can ping the client. Alright, so open up the command prompt, ping, okay, 10.10.10.10. Now, there's a reason that that's not working. Okay, let's just check the client's IP, 10.10.10.10, and the client is in the same LAN segment, so that should work, but there's a reason it's not working, and that reason is, okay, the Windows Defender firewall. So let's just let that time out and come back in. So what I'm going to do on the client, and this is just to show you that we've got communication, it's just a proof of concept, okay, is we're going to go start Windows Defender. So we don't want to open the Windows Defender firewall with advanced security, just the Windows Defender firewall, and we're going to go turn Windows Defender firewall on or off. Just leave that screen there. Now, that was me trying to cancel the ping. So clear this off, and this time we're going to run the ping to the client, but we're going to put a /t after it, and that means just keep going. Don't do, normally by default it does 4 then gives up. We're going to say just keep going. So it's trying now to ping that client machine. So let's turn off the Windows Defender firewall, hit OK. Oh, and let's go back to the server. Ah, what's this? Reply. So that means that the server and the client can see each other at layer 3 at the moment. We've got ICMP, so there we go. Now, can the client ping the server? Absolutely not. The server blocks ICMP. Right, I can show you. Ping 10.10.10.1. Oh, okay. Doesn't block ICMP anymore. It's working now. Great. So that's something that's new in Server 2022. Never used to. Okay, so we can ping both ways. Now, in order for this client to join an Active Directory domain, a layer 7 domain, we need to be able to see the domain. Now, we can do layer 3, that's no problem, but can we see layer 7? So let's ping ec.com. Right, ec.com can't be found. So let's go over to the server, okay, and let's ping ec.com. Now, let's just cancel that. Look, it's pinging itself. So it knows that it's ec.com. It's an authoritative domain controller. It's a DNS server for ec.com. Okay, this server is called ec.com in this domain, but the client can't see it. It can see it at layer 3, but it can't see it. And the reason for that is because we haven't set up the DNS on the client. So let's just go into our network settings, which I think I kept open, probably not, but let's see if we can get up and go to the network and sharing center, which should be here somewhere. Network and internet, network and sharing center. Right, so let's do change adapter settings. Let's go in here and have a look at the TCP/IP version 4 settings. Now at the moment we haven't told it what the DNS server is, so where's it looking? If I do ipconfig /all, okay, primary DNS suffix is nothing, okay, and it doesn't have anywhere to ask for. So if I do ping bbc.co.uk, there's obviously, it can't find it because it's got no one to ask. It can't ask what's the IP address for this. So let's tell it to use the domain controller as its primary DNS server. So let's do 10.10.10.1. Now, just to show you this working, if I do ping ec.com/t, doesn't like that because it's a domain. Okay, so just ping ec.com. Let's apply this and tell it where the DNS server is. Doesn't apply till you hit close. Now let's try and ping ec.com. Haha, look, it's now resolving ec.com to that IP address. So it can see the domain controller at layer 3 and it can see it at layer 7 as well, which is what we need. It can resolve these domain names. Okay, let's go and add this client into the domain. So to do that, what we're going to do is get to advanced system settings. So system, about, system info, and let's open up system and advanced system settings, and let's change the name. Now it says here to rename this computer or change its domain or work, click change. So we're going to click change domain and we're going to say ec.com. Okay, we can only do this because we know it can see ec.com. Okay, we know it's got communication. If you can't ping the domain in the command line, this won't work. So let's hit OK. Now it's going to ask me for the password. So administrator, and the password is going to be the administrator, Edinburgh College. Okay, hit OK. Welcome to the ec.com domain. Now let's hit OK and it's going to reboot this machine now. Let's close all of that. Let's restart now. Great. So this computer is going to reboot and it's going to be part of this domain as well. So the next thing we're going to do is go back to the Windows Server and go into our Active Directory users and computers. Okay, and we're going to right click on users and we're going to add a new user. Okay, so let's do new and let's do user. Now I'm actually going to add this at the domain level. New, let's go in here, right click, new, user. Okay, so a little wizard pops up and I'm going to add an account for, well, we know there's already an internal, a local account for John Smith. I could add a domain account for him, but I think that's going to be confusing. So we'll add a new account, okay, for a new user called Bob. Okay, and his name, logon name is going to be Bob Smith. Not very imaginative names, I know. So let's go next, and we'll make the password the usual password. The reason that I do this is because you've got to put so many passwords in that you'll never keep track of them. Okay, so we'll say user, we'll untick that and we'll say password never expires. Okay, so we don't have to change it when it logs in or anything. And let's hit next. Okay, finish. So now we have a new user called Bob Smith in the network. So let's go back to our client machine. We'll see that it's rebooted. So if I do send control-alt-delete, okay, at the moment we're signed in as a local user called John Smith, and we want to change that. So let's do other user and see what it says, sign in to EC. Let's sign in as, now let's just check what's Bob's username. His username is just bob@ec.com. So let's try signing in as Bob. Okay, and put the password in, the usual nonsense. There we go. Sign in as Bob. So now Bob could sign in on any machine that's in this domain. Okay, so that's Bob getting the out-of-box experience now on this machine. And we never created an account for Bob on this machine. We created an account in the Active Directory. Okay, so that is pretty much as far as we need to go with this outcome of server admin. So I'm going to stop at this point. Once Bob's logged in, let's just have a look. Here he is. So if I click start here, there he is, Bob Smith is signed in to this machine. And if we go over to our server, and if we go to Tools, Active Directory, Users and Computers, and when the ADUC loads up, we can go to the Computers tab, and we should see that there's that desktop machine signed in. Okay.